Okay, start with now that we're all safely sitting, let's stand up and say the pledge. Portion. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So we went over the CSD and CPSD for executive session. Second motion to accept those.
I'll make a motion.
Thanks, Josh. Thanks, Ray. All in favor?
Hi.
Any opposed? Great. On to the minutes of our September 16th meeting. Did anybody find any editorial?
One last minute thing, page 6, where it talks about CBT. It just says computer-based. I think it should be testing, just in front of it, just to clarify. Is that right?
Should be.
So just sort of testing. I'm sorry I didn't find it until today.
Thank you.
I didn't see anything else.
Anything else, anybody? Okay. Motion to approve those. Thanks, Ray. So Nate down there with second. All those in favor?
All right,
Aye. Any opposed? Are you abstaining? No, you're in. Cool. Seems plausible. Reports, treasurer's reports, and appropriation transfers. I struggle with that one.
So I guess the main thing I wanted to highlight in my grants, because you guys are used to my grant spiel by now, and I've got a lot of grants out there waiting for approval. But we did, just surprise, get some new money. It's going to be an IDEA grant that's part of the ARP funds. So it's not a ton of money, $40,000. We're able to use it through 2023. We've been forewarned not to use it to supplant things that we're currently paying for in the general fund budget, because we do have to make maintenance of effort for the IDEA grant. So if we lower our spending on it too much in the general fund budget, then that harms us for making maintenance of effort and how much we spend on special ed. So we'll be able to be creative and maybe do some extra things, Angie, for special ed. And we've got some years to use it, so that'll be nice. And then today I just got an email, so it's not in here, sorry, that there are more ESSER funds that we are getting another grant for that was like, I don't know, I was kind of waiting for this IDEA ARC funds, that was completely a surprise. This other one is coming out soon, and I was waiting for it. It's just, every time I turn around, a new grant. So it's a lot of work, but it's great to have the money coming in. Obviously, we talked about the independent audit, and that's been a big focus, for the last couple weeks. We had our building condition survey done. We talked about having Highlands come back to the district to do that for us because they have this wonderful longstanding history with us, and they've been very good. So we're happy to have them back, and that went well. Our architects were very complimentary about the condition of the buildings. They just talked about the roofs. We have some roof work and we have some HVAC work, which we've been expecting. But we'll be expecting the BCS to be returned to us in a couple weeks, and then Highlands submits that to the state for us. So that went well. I don't have a lot for you guys because I've just been so busy with audits and, getting my state reporting turned in for the, previous fiscal year. So if there's anything I've overlooked, please let me know. I'm happy to answer questions.
And then we have to approve that before we move on to the appropriation transfers, right? Okay, thanks.
Yes, I'll make a motion.
Thanks, Mike.
I'll second.
Thanks, Brent. All those in favor?
Go ahead.
Any opposed? Okay. Now on to the transfers. Which, thank you for getting these to us earlier, and the report as well. That was helpful. Like, here's this thing, approve it. Anybody have any questions or anything on the transfers? Okay. Motion to approve those. Thanks, Josh. Thanks, Kate. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. On to warrants.
Is general fund warrant 7 or 13? It says 7 on the agenda, it says 13 on the detail report. And then there's a similar question on school lunch fund.
Oh, they got swapped.
Transposed the two.
Yeah, I think they just got swapped.
Thank you, Ray.
This is just kind of a hippie question. Can we double side the report so we just have paper?
Sure.
Yeah.
Cool.
I'll ask Heather. Heather's one makes a copy, so I'll make sure.
Yeah, I had a momentary, setback when I saw the stack. Then I realized it was one side only, so my heart rate went down.
I did the same.
Yeah.
I tested by the weight. And I go,
We actually did write the checks that were voided. I mean, we've got a correlation there because there were a lot of voids here.
Yeah. And some of these, like it says voided during printing, that means the invoice, there are so many invoices that it carried over onto
Okay.
more checks.
Now, does the system automatically throw that check out?
Yeah.
And then you can go in and do whatever you have to do to get a valid check?
It's technically printed.
Yeah.
It just, the final figure's not on that check. Like check number, right on the front page, 36888 is a part of 36889. That is the MasterCard payment. There's just so many invoices that
Yeah.
it carries on to several checks.
Sydney, one question. On page 3, there's this key government finance purchase of solar. Page,
No, that should be, just
Three?
checking the amount. Oh, no, yep, that is solar, sorry. We also have, we have some bus lease payments with them too, but no, yeah, that is the solar. We
okay,
pay it semi-annually.
okay. And I wondered why, I just forgot how that works, but it lists principal and interest separately.
Yes.
And then it says liquidate, and I said, oh, did we pay it all off? I said, no, we couldn't have, why not? Okay,
No, we still have about 1.9 million on
That's
that debt.
I was just hoping. Maybe they gave us a break to say,
That'd be nice.
On page 4, the third one down, the line is new employee fees. That's not one that I've seen before,
It's fingerprint fees.
but it's not the normal fingerprint amount.
Yeah. He had gone to a different vendor
Oh.
than what we normally go
There's, and
to.
everybody there is half
It's
price.
cheaper.
Well,
Yeah.
it doesn't go through Teach, so.
Oh.
Yeah,
There are other aspects of it.
yeah, we
yeah.
had 3 fingers.
You only have 3 fingers.
Really should not have said
Sorry. You said it as an aside, so I'll take half the blame for that one.
On page 20, just about middle of the page, computer state aided software. Candor Woolley?
I bet.
Taylor can speak
Same
to that.
with Taylor.
Yes, I remember you talking about it once.
Oh, yeah, would you like a description?
Yes, I remember it, Ben, but let's see.
So Senior Woolley is a really interactive set of videos and activities that are tailored to the proficiency level of the target language being used. So Actful makes all these different proficiency levels. So we start with novice and middle school, and then the Spanish 5 that I teach is intermediate mid. That's kind of where we max out. So these are customizable videos with corresponding activities. So I think there's 3 requisitions probably for that. So that is myself and my 2 colleagues. And it's fantastic. He's a former Spanish teacher who was on YouTube back in the day, about 10 years ago, and then he got so big that now this is his main gig. So
That's great.
it's really cool, yeah.
So it has absolutely nothing to do with the woolly bear caterpillars predicting the
It
winter.
does not.
We had a senior woolly moment.
Yeah. Get those a lot.
On page 9, I see the AED, which is great to have on site. Is the nurses, the certified, we have a certified person to use that. I think that, you can't get one without the right staff on hand, right?
Our trainer is certified to use
Yeah, I was
it.
gonna say, Colby
It was
is
a
12.
it was a traveling AED for our trainer.
Cool, that's perfect. Yeah, I've never trained girls like that.
Page 11, the fiscal agent fees, is that,
That was related to the RAM.
okay, that's what I thought.
Everybody good on that one? There's a lot of pages. So on to the federal funds 5.
First page, Burton Town of BOCES, that was a tuition thing and it applies to the federal funds. Is that right, or what?
Yes. No, that's correct. That's related to summer tuition for our BT BOCES.
Okay. And last up, the school lunch fund 7.
Shoes for crews, I like that. That was the first time I saw that.
We sent for a while.
Everybody's good on that. With the motion, Ray, Nate, tied, so take a quick back. All those in favor?
All right,
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Recognition of visitors. Hi, visitors.
all right.
Ben within Cerro, can you give us kind of a rundown on the audit you guys worked so hard on?
Do that. So I'm Ben Owens, I work with Insero and Coach CPAs, principal with the firm in Rochester. So we're tasked with doing the financial statement audit of the school district. We actually do 3 separate audits. We do the actual financial statements of the district. We also do the extracurricular activity audit. And we do, because the district spends more than $750,000 in federal monies, we do a federal uniform guidance single audit. We have a report that was sent ahead to the board members. We did review that in depth in executive session. It is in draft form. We plan on removing the watermark the next couple of days, and it can be finalized and submitted to NICEAD along with the ST3 that's been submitted in advance here. In that report packet, there's an executive summary that kind of goes over our deliverables in relation to the audit. Page 1 of that document goes over the independent auditor's report. So that's pretty much the most important pages in that document. That's where we opine on the financial statements. We are rendering unmodified or clean opinion on the financial statements, which means based on all the audit procedures that we conducted, starting really in the spring and then throughout the summer, including tonight, really, we feel the numbers in here and the related disclosures fairly present the activities and the financial position of the district as of June 30th, 2021. There's also an unmodified opinion for the supplemental schedules that accompany the financial statement. There's both required and regular supplemental schedules that are part of the larger financial package. We went through those numbers and all the related disclosures in there. We feel confident in those as well. We also perform some procedures in relation to government auditing standards because the school district is a governmental entity, which means we take a little closer look at some of the internal controls and then also non-compliance, or I should say compliance with certain provisions in the law. There was one finding that we identified there that's disclosed in the financial statements and the management comment letter. The district is only allowed to have 4% unassigned fund balance at year end. You're at 4.66, so you're less than 1% over the law, but technically we do have to report that. Of the 30-some districts that we audit, probably half of them this year had similar findings. Most districts were over. A lot of that is due to the pandemic and the related uncertainty of the funding. A year ago, we thought that there was going to be a 20% reduction in state aid. There was a lot of holdback on expenditures and things of that nature. The state aid actually did come to fruition late in the year, which led to most of our districts having a surplus at year end, which will be used in subsequent years to further the educational goals of the district. But it is a finding. Sydney's prepared a management response that's shown along with that finding in the back with the district's plans and how they're going to address that and remedy that in a subsequent year. We also, as I mentioned, performed a federal single audit. There was just over $1 million that was spent on the various federal programs. We did, every year we picked different programs based on our risk assessment. This year we picked the CARES funding that was suspended by the district. It's a new program for most all of our districts this year. So it's a program-specific audit, so we test that against the uniform guidance. And on the compliance supplement, we didn't have any findings in relation to that. So no instance of non-compliance or material weaknesses in relation to that program that was tested there. So also positive news. There's a communication letter that's part of the financial statements, and then it talks about estimates and some of the other parameters that are more important, or we feel are more important to point out in the financial statements. It's also our opportunity to disclose any difficulties we had while performing the audit, particularly with management. We're happy to disclose that we did not have any. Sydney and her group there were forthright, providing us with everything we needed, which is quite a lot to perform an audit. So we're very happy with that as well. It also talks about any corrected or uncorrected misstatements. We didn't have any corrected or uncorrected misstatements, which shows that the numbers that we were provided at the start of the audit were accurate. So you can have confidence in the underlying accounting that's happening throughout the year end and year end. There's also the last sequence of bullets. There's the independent audit report and extra classroom activities. We're rendering unmodified opinion there because we feel, based on the audit procedures that were performed, that the numbers shown in that report are also accurate in the transactions that were tested. There's a management letter of comments for both the school and the extra classroom activities. The extra classroom activities has some other matters. They're the lesser finding. So we didn't have any material weaknesses or significant deficiencies, but there's other matters in there which are just areas of improvement that we've identified through our testing. We have that in most of the districts we audit. There's recommendations that accompany that. It's just kind of a helpful management tool for really tightening up that program in subsequent years. In the executive summary, I also talk about accounting standards. The Government Accounting Standards Board, the school has to conform to those reporting requirements. This year, GASB statement number 84 was adopted, which changed the way we present fiduciary activities in the report. There's a restatement footnote in there on that. But it was a pretty minor change for your district, but we do report that. Next year, GASB statement number 87 is effective, which will change the way that we look at and account for leases. So we'll work with the district as we get close to next year's audit, which is seemingly a long ways away from today, to see what accounting needs to change in relation to that. We also take a look at the general fund in the executive summary. This year, the general fund finished the year with $3.7 million in fund balance, which was about $640,000 over last year's. That was largely the result of an excess of revenue over expenditures in the current year that we talked about. Some of that was due to an additional $216,000 that was received this year for CARES funding, also some additional state aid, and then also a reduction in expenses of almost $500,000 in last year, which is very consistent with a lot of the other districts that we audit. So you are over the 4%, not by a lot, but this year, due to the excess of revenue or expenditures, you're really able to put a little bit of that money aside for future uses and kind of help to solidify the finances of the district. Positive report and positive numbers. The rest of the executive summary focuses on the fund balances and the budgetary schedules. I won't go through them. We did go through them in a lot of detail in the executive session. And in the financial statements, those reports are shown in a lot more detail, along with notes that disclose the important parts, kind of help walk you through understanding those schedules. So all in all, just to conclude on the audit process, I thought it was a very successful audit once again this year. We were on site, which was very helpful for getting the audit completed. We did all of our normal substantive and analytical procedures, as well as inquiries with various employees within the district, including Sydney. She gets a long questionnaire to help us make sure that all the disclosures in here are accurate. There's nothing new that changed this year. For instance, the RAND that's shown in the subsequent disclosure in here, we do inquiries to understand those things that might change from last year. We also look at your cash receipt, cash disbursement, and payroll cycles, and we test representative samples from each one of those, whether it's verifying teacher pay rates to the contractually agreed amount, or looking at cash disbursements all the way down to the purchase order to make sure that the board approved policies are being followed at the detail level, and ultimately culminating those all the way up to the numbers that are shown in the financial statements here, so we can have a level of comfort with those numbers. So all in all, I think it's a very positive report here. I'd open up for any questions anyone might have.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Ben.
Drive safely.
Okay. We're on to the,
Anybody else?
yeah, you usually don't. I didn't mean to jump to conclusions though. On to the consent agenda.
You have to approve the independent audit report.
I sure do.
Sorry.
We'll let you do it all.
Yes, Cindy wouldn't let us go home without taking care of that.
Definitely want to submit that.
Yes, yes. Is there a motion
I'll
to?
move.
Thanks, Ray.
I'll second it.
Thanks, Mike. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you.
And on this agenda, I just want to point out for Jasmine Inners, she's 10.1E. She started on the 20th, correct? Yesterday.
She did.
So her effective date will change to the 20th, retroactive back to the 20th. She hadn't been fingerprinted yet, and I wasn't quite sure when she was gonna start, but she was fingerprinted, they passed, and Katie had her come in, so that will change to the 20th, just so you know.
Madison was unhappy with the ice cream selection.
I guess, oh my goodness. Yeah.
Are there any items on the consent agenda that you would like to pull out for separate consideration? Alright. Any questions on any of the consent agenda items?
B, under the appointments, Sabrina Schwartz is coming on as a long-term sub until she gets the proper certification. I'm understanding that right? Okay.
Just one other thing. Pete, just a quick question on the merger sports that we have, the wrestling and bowling. Do you know what the numbers look like from Spencer and Candor on either side?
For the individual sports,
Yeah, the wrestling and the bowling, that are,
I do have those. I don't have with me tonight, but I do have those.
just curious if it's, because I know this past year, we had like one or two kids playing from Spencer on certain teams.
Yeah, so
Pretty small numbers from there.
for Candor, the varsity wrestling is 30. I know that number.
Okay,
Bowling's all Candor at 34.
it is.
Yeah. And then for modified wrestling, it's 3 for Candor. I don't know how many for Spencer unless I have my sheet in front of me, but it's in my office. I can give you those numbers.
I was just curious what the numbers look like as far as,
I heard that number right, 34 kids on the bowling team.
That's on paper signups, so we'll see how many sign up on Family ID.
How many did you have last year?
21 started and we ended up like 18.
Wow.
thanks, Pete.
None of them want to play football.
None of them.
Different season, but yeah.
You can bowl with girls in bowling, so a lot of the guys go there.
Okay.
I think it's the French fries.
This is what the French fries. Wait a minute.
French fries.
Question, and this was maybe put forward with Karen Oakley, moving away, you're on the hunt again for
We
a
are.
tester,
We
right?
will be, yes, yeah, we are, yes, we don't have, yeah, we have until December, so we will have.
Yeah, she's going where it's warm all the time. All right, if we're all good on those, accept the motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll move.
Thanks, Brent. Thanks. Thanks. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Excellent. And the fun part, reports from administrators. No, Wayne.
Mr. is at a football game, so.
Yep, yep. So we have his written report. And you guys are in like this crazy order tonight, so it's all like. Katie, you're up.
Okay, so I presented some iReady data. You'll see 2 sets of tables. The first table is our 2021 data from iReady. We've got the reading data and the math data. One thing to remember about iReady is that we did start to use it as a universal screener in the 1920 year, but that's the school year that everything got sidetracked when we shut down for COVID. So that year of data was really not too accurate. But just to draw your attention to, again, the reading and math data for that year, you see the growth in our students that both reading and math, but still not quite content with the levels of having 53% of our students at, on grade level and 41% on grade level for math. So we're making growth, or we made growth that year in a very trying year. That was the year that we had our hybrid cohorts. We brought most of our kids back in April, but it was a very trying year. So it was great to see that we had growth that year. We're still concerned about proficiency levels altogether when you look at that spring data. And then you've got the fall data from the beginning of this year. And you can see that it's a bit concerning where our kids are falling as far as on grade level 1 year below and 2 or more below. So, and all of this has been shared with faculty, and you can imagine that it was hard to look at as a staff. And we have rolled this into our initiatives for this year, and this is a lot of our why and the purpose behind the work that we're doing. I've listed the 3 priorities that we're devoted to for this year. We've heard a lot about it already, but our Super Kids and side-by-side ELA curriculum. We're working on implementing that with fidelity. And again, you heard about the work last year that went into selecting these curriculums. We had our ELA committees really dedicated to studying the science of reading and then selecting 2 good, solid programs that we knew were going to provide our kids with the necessary ELA instruction. Secondly, we're focusing on tightening up our RTI practices. So response to intervention is a huge part of what our kids need instructionally. Talk more about this in a future meeting, but what we're talking about is tiered supports, where at the bottom of the triangle, all of our kids are getting core instruction. And as you work up into the tier, some of our kids need small group intervention. And then a small percentage of our kids need individual support. So it gets more intensive as you work your way up. But these are things that we're working on as a building. We just reworked our RTI form, our referral form for teachers and specialists to refer kids to a committee that then we're going to sit down and look at the difficulties that the student's having and respond appropriately so they can get the interventions they need. And lastly, we continue to focus on social emotional learning. We know that it's the foundation to our students being able to come to school and having what they need in order to be successful with learning. So that focus continues. And again, I know the data is, it's a bit frightening to look at. And it's helping us to focus and zero in on the really important work that we need to do. And we're hopeful that we're going to see growth with our students, and everybody is stretched pretty thin with the instructional minutes in our new ELA curriculum. Sorry to jump back to that, but especially the 1-2, grades 1 and 2, they need 120 instructional minutes to fully implement this program. We have about a 90-minute ELA block right now in our master schedule. So it's 90 to 120 minutes, but teaching it for the first time, we're seeing we really need the full 120 minutes. So science and social studies at some points and on some days are not priority. The reading instruction, the ELA curriculum, and staying true to that instruction is the priority. So a lot of work to do, and again, we have a lot of hope that we can support our students just how they need to be and see growth. Any questions on that, the data or anything? Did it make sense to you guys?
Are the metrics scaled from beginning to end of year, like a first grader going into the fall curriculum? Is that different than the what you would see in the spring? Or is it the same scale from beginning to end, where you would expect people not to be at grade level entering, or is it a lower bar set because they are just entering the grade level?
That's a great question, and Hannah actually emailed with that question, so I'm semi-prepared to answer it. I gave her probably a longer answer than she wanted about the iReady being norm referenced, which means that students are compared to peers across the nation, and also criterion referenced, which means that they're being measured against a criteria, which is the Common Core standards. So that's just kind of a side note that Hannah got. But then Kim and I talked, so twofold. I emailed the rest from iReady because I want to get a really concrete, solid answer, and I can share that with all of you. Kim and I, in a conversation, she was able to find a more specific answer, and Hannah, I think you got it in email. So the answer is yes, it is. It depends on fall, winter, spring, and it does, what's the word I'm looking for?
Adjust
It does
to the
adjust.
testing window.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's the short answer.
And so like the difference from spring last year to fall this year, is that just loss of retention over the summer?
Say that again.
I think that's a theory, you know.
I mean, so if you look at, the fall or spring of 2021 for reading, we were at 53%, and then we start this year back at 18% for reading. Is that just lost retention over the summer?
It is, and it's typical that we see that loss. The conversation that came up when Katie, Pete, and Angie presented the data to the elementary staff was, it feels like that's the back and forth, like we take a step forward and we take a step back. Take a step forward, take a step back. And the question that came up, I think, from quite a few of the table groups was, so now we need to take a step and a half forward or 2 steps forward and a step back, because that summer loss does happen every year.
I guess it'll take a few years before we really have good data, right? So, I mean, that's the hard part here.
Well, and, sorry, Mike, I think we had to take a look back and say, okay, how long have we been using iReady? And we had to look back that it was the spring of 2019.
Yeah.
We piloted it with just 3 grade levels.
Right.
Because we'd been using Dibbles. And then we tried Dibbles math because we didn't have a math diagnostic as well. And that's when we switched to the iReady. So we piloted with 3 grades for 6 weeks. Then the next school year, we had the fall diagnostic, we had the winter diagnostic, and then school
Kids
stopped.
went out, right?
And then last year, we did administer the diagnostic, all 3, fall, winter, and spring, and we administered it remotely even, just to try to get the data. So whether or not, we don't know how accurate that was. So yeah, I would say hopefully 2 years from now, we can say, okay, we were here, they were here.
If you can kind of benchmark what you expect to lose over the summer, and a plan to address it before and after, I guess.
I guess the question is, if this is normalized across the nation, wouldn't everybody step back?
Yeah.
So, but we step back, and if the whole nation stepped back, then we're still normative.
Correct.
So we step back more than they do. But it could be, who knows? I mean, this is very early in its infancy, so you got a lot of adjustments to do.
And we also have 2 grade levels, well, no, there are 3 grade levels that had never actually taken it, right? Because first grade we didn't administer it to first grade the first year. And we didn't administer it to kindergarten the first 2. So building level numbers.
Yeah, it's not the same exact kids that took it each time, and it is one measure. We're gonna have unit data assessment from the core curriculum, but this is still something, and it's still, I wanna know what else, we have to do to track and monitor progress, and I think that's when it gets down to our tiered interventions and what we're doing for our struggling learners. Because if we have this percentage of kids on grade level that are going to be successful with core curriculum, then you can do the math. The percentage of the kids that we have that need intervention right now is so great. So we have really got to zero in on our interventions, teaching the core, and it's been hard because you're thinking about a 2nd grade student right now who hasn't had a full year of school yet in person. So there's so many different factors that play into that. So it's hard to think about it and talk about it, but it's our measure, our universal screener that we have. And from here, we're just gonna keep plugging along. I think it's gonna be best for us to now come to you before we have winter diagnostic data. That'll be the next data set for this. To come to you with some of the programming and the things that we're putting in place. We do have a new math AIS teacher, as you know. So working with her is kind of nice because we're just building that program the way we want to build it. It's not switching something, but our reading AIS teachers, they're switching their focus a little bit more. They're more skill oriented with a whole lot of students. During intervention, we have tier 2 interventionists. That's a classroom teacher. We're all interventionists. We have an intervention block that we're really zeroing in on and focusing. All kids are getting intervention, as you see. Not many of them don't need it at this point in time, attributed to a lot of different things. So it's tough, but it's also motivating to most of us, and it was great to hear the teachers, and we just kind of gave them an opportunity to respond and to talk in groups about it. And I'm always so proud of our teachers and how what comes out of it is, shock, a lot of shock and disappointment, and they've put so much work into their students, but his hope is that they're hopeful and they're invested. So we'll keep working and sharing with you the things that we're doing in response to this and these initiatives, most specifically the new ELA curriculum and the RTI practices. The SEL, yes, we're implementing some new things, but really our focus on number 1 and 2 are things that we just want to keep on going with and sharing with you guys. And if there's specific information you want, feel free to shoot me an email, and I'll make sure I try to wrap it into my report.
One other thing, Katie, has there been discussion about sharing this with parents too, and hope that some of them may be shocked as well and want to be engaged? I know not everybody's going to be. I know many of us up here probably would be, but if there's parents that see this and feel the same way, there may be some more at home. And jumping ahead to Kim's report, I saw communications with families was one of the things they want to improve on. I didn't know if this had a good output that could help further that conversation.
It's certainly been thought about. We thought more about sending the individual reports home with parents, and at this time, with everything our kids have been through with school and in and out and many virtual learning, we decided not to send. I'd rather send the winter reports when we can show and prove some growth. But I don't know, we should probably talk about that as a team. Does it go out to families? It's the reality. It's not anything.
Well, and I asked, I think in my email back to you, Hannah, this afternoon was, what would what would be the right information or the right presentation of information? Meaning, I don't want to send something home that's they're going to be overwhelmed with.
Right.
But it's important. I mean, as a parent, I would want to know. I mean, my question back to Katie on the phone today was, because we were getting started and then the last 2 years, not to use it as an excuse, kind of threw us off our game and a little bit, and going through the resources, there's so much, and there is a lot of how to communicate it with families, how to, in the middle school, how to work with the kids and have them see their own goals, because we do administer it through 8th grade. So those are.
Or even at a parent-teacher conference, I don't know if that's an option, but, give parents ahead of time, give us the option to maybe request this, let a parent digest it, and then during that
That's a good idea.
to strategize with a parent and teacher, how can I get my individual child on grade level?
I know, sorry.
I just, and I'm new to all of this. I have a 2nd grader, so I have a child who has not had a full year of school yet. And I don't know if it's fair to look at these numbers because, of course, it's one diagnostic tool, and we all know that's not a complete snapshot of a child's education. But I don't know if my 2nd grader is in the same pool as a 2nd grader 4 years ago. You know what I mean? And that would be a teacher's perspective. And Katie, do you feel, how are teachers responding to where their students are right now in each grade level? Do they feel like they're struggling to bring them up to where they should be, or?
Yes, they are feeling and seeing that gap. I'd say we have a group of 3rd graders, a larger group of 3rd graders than we've ever had floor that need phonics instruction. So you think about what their first grade year looked like. First grade is they are the teaching reading grade. So yes, they are feeling it. And I will say that we are pushing to keep going. We're not, for our third grade curriculum, we're not going to go back and teach second grade curriculum. We're focusing on our interventions in order to hopefully fill that gap and backfill some of those skills, because the minute we backtrack and with our second graders use first grade curriculum or anything like that, we're just going to create bigger gaps. And again, we're never going to get a step and a half ahead to where we know our kids are capable. So yes, Kate, to answer your question, they're struggling. They feel that stress, and they're seeing that their kids might not be ready for what they're trying to teach, but we're moving along. I really like your idea about some type of general parent informational night where this data could be shared, and you use the word digested a little bit, and then more individual at a parent conference where it's more intimate. And this is what I see in the classroom. This is your child's report card, but here's the diagnostic data that we could also share with you, because it's, only 18% of our students are where they are. So chances are you're going to see your child falling in the yellow or in the red. So it could be alarming.
Some of the parents whose children are on grade level are worried that they're going to fall behind because there's so many other children behind. So it's a balance between both ends.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Katie, is
The
there?
children are not in the group, but I understand, and we're going to work on that.
Those are actually
Children are
good ideas.
wonderful.
I think the three, you're addressing how to handle it. I think an individual and a group level is great. Is there a differentiation between first grade, second grade, third grade? Would those numbers change? This is an aggregate of all the grades.
Mm-hmm.
Would the numbers get better as you get farther up, or worse?
It was pretty consistent. Each grade level. And when Kim held the first round of team meetings, the grade levels got to look at their individual data.
Okay.
So that was looked at very closely with grade levels. And then after that, we felt it was important to share the grade level. But if you want to see the percentages by grade level, I'd be more than willing to share that with you.
If they're easy available, just
Very easy.
That'd be
Yeah.
great.
Sure. And kindergarten through sixth grade,
Yep.
eighth grade. But this is K-6 data. I should have made that clear. This is the
Yeah.
elementary building data.
The 7-8 looks very similar.
Okay. So are there, if you identify during the RTI process, you identify some holes that the intervention needs help or whatever, I know some really smart old people, I'm not one of them, who could volunteer to help.
That would be fun.
But seriously, just, sometimes a little mentoring would help. We're more than happy to. Aren't you a smart person?
Well, we are taking an all hands on deck approach.
Yes, we are.
I
And
think that's great.
I just want to remind everybody, for each of the three things that are the focus, it takes 3 to 5 years to see significant growth.
I agree.
So it's going to be 3 to 5 years to see intense growth.
Yep.
But there's a lot of stuff, great stuff going on to promote the growth.
That's good. Great.
So is our plan for the winter diagnostic to do K-6 again with the data being available in the spring?
No, it's immediate. As soon as the kids take the assessment.
Yeah, but to
So sorry, the
compare it,
winter, right, it went from fall to spring here. I cut out the winter diagnostic because of just the midpoint. So
Okay.
there will be,
Okay.
in December, there will be winter data. Is
'cause
that what you were asking?
so in any given year, the fall numbers and the spring numbers will show growth from fall to spring. The next year, the population will change. You'll have the kids in sixth grade will now be tested another way. and you'll have new kindergartners coming in. So I think you gotta kind of look at,
You've got to put those cohorts together.
yeah,
And look, right.
yeah, because otherwise you get a skewed, I mean, from fall to spring, you can get an idea how good you're improving, how good your corrective actions are. But then the next year, the population will change, and you gotta kind of look at how badly, if they are lagging, the kindergartners are doing coming in. And you're gonna lose the sixth graders. I mean, everything shifts up.
One, in that high level look, like what you're talking about, Ray, it would also, that would speak to our curriculum and our instruction, that
Right.
core. Because hopefully, we continue to grow, we continue to get better, and it won't matter that much which kids are in the building
Right.
taking that assessment, because our goal is that our core instruction, first and foremost, improves. So that hopefully those percentages in tier 2 and tier 3 go down.
And hopefully the kindergartners will come in better prepared, so you're not gonna notice the fact that hopefully the sixth graders, who theoretically should be the best, if they've been addressed all the way up, if their deficiencies have been addressed. So you shouldn't notice that loss.
Right.
So, yeah,
That could take a while.
yeah, it's
for
gonna
those
take
sixth
some
graders.
time.
I mean, just
Well,
over.
it's really K-8, right?
Right.
So-
It is,
Yeah.
yeah, it is.
Yeah, these numbers just show K6, right?
Right.
Okay.
I think both of you said it right, it's gonna take some time, just this. And it's a matter of focusing on what needs to be done, and I think you're doing it, so.
Yeah, and it really is that's why we moved to iReady, so that we had data to look at. Dibbles gave us some, and that was good for the congruence meetings and those interventions, but we needed something much more broad that could help us. Because otherwise it was state assessments at grades 3 through 8.
Yeah, and iReady is much more than a diagnostic tool. There are a lot of instructional pieces. Parents have seen it at home with the individual tasks. But every reading and math are broken up into domains where we can dig deeper to see what kids are struggling with specifically. And that's another set of tools that we're using within iReady and our intervention to be skill focused on what the kids need.
So if you were interested, maybe at a board meeting,
talk about
we
it for a
could do
long
like a
time.
10-minute,
That'd be awesome.
and then we
Yeah.
could display it, because telling you doesn't
Yeah.
help a whole lot.
That would
Seeing
be
it would be helpful.
Really.
Okay. We could do that.
But thank you for sharing that data, right? I mean, that's how you identify and move forward. So,
Yep.
thank you.
And then open house. Was wonderful. Thank you. I think everybody was there and it was just great. We had 289 out of 391 students represented, which was 74%. We broke it up into time blocks so that we didn't crowd the building too much. We asked people to limit their visits to 10 to 15 minutes. They were wonderful. Everybody wore their masks. It was a delightful evening. Thank you.
It's good.
Thanks, Katie. We're on to Pete.
All right, so the first item, I've talked about our coaching mentor program that I started to look into. And really, when it boils down to it, I tried, this year we've had to support some more coaches more than others. We've had a lot of great coaches in our programs, a lot of veteran coaches. So I wanted to utilize some of our veteran coaches to help support some of our younger coaches, our inexperienced coaches, our newer coaches at the JV and varsity level. So I've talked to two of our more veteran coaches who are well respected to help with some sort of mentoring program for those younger, newer coaches. I've talked to Pam Quinlan and Jason Banks, who, when you think about taking an athletic program from good to great, you think of those two coaches. I mean, they're well respected. They're not just outside of the realm of athletics. They're well respected. They're great with the kids. They have great relationships with the kids. So I've talked to them, and we've started to sort of mold our mentor program into some goals that we all agree on that we think would be best practice throughout our athletic department for those newer coaches. We decided to hone in on JV and varsity coaches, the newer coaches, because at the modified level, those coaches are supported by the varsity and JV coaches. So we're really focusing in on the varsity and JV level. The details of the program aren't yet set. We have to sort of figure out what the direction we want to go with the program is. And I'll report on that as that comes to fruition in the next couple of months. As we look forward to the winter coaches, I don't have any new coaches at the varsity or JV level. So it wouldn't pertain to the varsity or JV level going into the winter. Spring coaches, when we look at to see if we bring anybody new in, what it would pertain to. But I'm looking forward to that program, and Pam and Jason are excited about it too. So they're great resources for us to have. The AD workshop I went to, it's always useful. I go to it every year. Just look at changes in rules and regulations at the state level. Keeps me up to date on circumstances that I see every year, rules that we have to address every year. And certainly this year with COVID, with some state laws that have been enacted, we've had to update some of the sports-related rules at the state level. So it was great to go to that and to network too and meet all the ADs that you email or you call on the phone. You don't get to meet them face-to-face. We're able to do that at that meeting. A few months ago, I presented a mission statement to everybody, and we agreed on that mission statement as an athletic department. And part of that mission statement was service to our community. And I really wanted to push that amongst the athletic department this year. We've got 2 opportunities coming up. One was supposed to be on Saturday. However, we've had 6 football players that volunteered to do the Kelsey Road, the picking for the harvest dinner. However, we just got a game scheduled for Saturday, so we had to cancel that. And I've been working with Denise Peckins on that. So she understood when I told her we're gonna have to do something with her in the Methodist Church closer to Christmas time, or even Thanksgiving. So we are planning though for the community outreach for the Halloween night. We're gonna hand out candy to the trick-or-treaters on the front lawn. It's the first year we started that, so we'll see if I've been pushing it in the elementary building every day to come to the high school front lawn for some candy bars.
Any donations?
No, we're gonna hand that candy out.
No, I'm saying.
He's stealing candy for kids.
I'm taking it for kids. My plan is to get the big candy bar so it's memorable for the kids. Go big or go home.
You're gonna take away Gina's thunder.
Yeah, so that's why.
Yeah.
Full size candy
They're
bar.
not gonna skip.
What's that?
They're gonna go to Gina's
Yeah,
too.
don't worry.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay, never mind. I won't
We'll take
offer.
any candy that you can give us. How about that?
He's always eating candy.
So we do have several volunteers for that, which is exciting. And then the congratulations piece, you can see some individual and some team congratulations there. We do have soccer playing tomorrow for a sectional game here at the stadium at 3:30. It's an earlier game than normal because it is sectionals. And we have a potential of 2 home sectional games for soccer if they win and the other team on the other side of the bracket loses. So that would be exciting for that too. And then the steering committee notes are on the back side. When we look at those numbers, again, it is the paper-based numbers. This is the first year that we've had to cut in this sport since I've been here the past 3 years. If that 34 does come out for bowling, we have to cut. The bowling alley doesn't have enough lanes to give us where it wouldn't affect their business. So we do have to cut down to 20 if those 34 do come out. Bowling takes the top 8 performers. They would be on the team and participate as long as they're the top 8. And then the rest of the kids would get 4 or 5 lanes where they can still participate and practice and try to make the next top 8 the next week. So they still have a chance to participate on the team, even if they don't start every week. And I think that's it. If you have any questions, and Brent, I can get the Spencer side numbers. I do have the Spencer side.
Yeah, just curious.
Yeah.
Just something, what I was thinking about was just, if we remain merged for a sport that we really don't truly have students from Spencer, does that hinder us down the road for sectional playoffs because we're classified as a B school versus a D school? I don't know if that has any effect in like bowling ranks. I don't know how that all works, but
Well, it
that's
technically
really
would.
what's driving my thought process.
And it would affect us because of our numbers. We try to keep bowling open for Spencer kids. This year, they don't have anybody, maybe one that's interested, but we try to keep that open for them, just like they keep field hockey open for us. We usually send only one or two over there. But yes, it would affect us as far as sectional play with numbers.
Okay. Well, that's interesting to see. With those numbers, you'd think some entrepreneur would open a bowling alley, so now.
You would
I'm
think.
surprised.
How's the reffing situation looking?
So NFHS just put out an all call to everybody to go to be a referee. They put out a dire need video of how the crisis mode that they're in as far as referees. Basketball season will be tough. I can see some games getting moved to different nights where there's not other games. So be prepared for that in winter sports. And then with heckling from the spectators, I assume midway through the season we'll have less officials.
Do we anticipate that getting worse or better?
Currently, did you say?
Do you anticipate it getting better?
It's getting worse every year.
Every year it's
I'm
getting.
hopeful it gets better, and with the support from the board in the district as far as their spectator policy, I'm hoping that makes people think twice.
Good.
It's pretty punitive. Somebody came up to me yesterday again and said, thank you for that support on that. So we'll see going into the winter what kind of effect that has.
I was talking about the ref, so the ref availability getting worse.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I was gonna ask, what is the training for, to
I'm
ref?
sorry, I couldn't hear you.
What's the training to ref?
To referee,
Yeah,
every
like
sport's different. They do
For
have
basketball,
classes.
what's the commitment?
They do have classes they have to take, and then you have to start at the modified level and work your way up.
So it's.
So what's happening now is we're getting a lot of modified level refs doing varsity and JV games, which fuels the spectator involvement
Yeah.
quite a bit.
I wasn't asking for myself.
For a friend,
I was wondering, my husband, but I'm like, I don't know if training is gonna work for him. And don't tell him I said, I'm asking.
Well, he's probably watching.
Yeah, he's watching.
I'll cut it out.
Somebody send an email quick to rewind
But that's good to know. I didn't realize you had to start. I mean, now I can see where that challenge is arising.
Pete, there's 3 classes you have to take, is that right? Is that still the case? Or?
I believe there's 3, yeah. And the pay is not great
No.
for an official, unless it's football, the pay's decent.
Yeah.
But.
Look, actually, one of the best paying ones is track official, interestingly.
Yep.
But you gotta know a lot of stuff. I don't know why, but
With all the events going on, yeah.
interesting. Wow.
So, just one note on the service line, with the students, if there's sort of another avenue for service for them, more sports related, if there's any way you can get them involved in coaching the rec sport that they're in, that's I started coaching soccer when I was in high school. And it was a great experience. I'm still coaching U8 many years later, but now they're my own kids. I didn't get any better. No, well, I did. I went up, and then I had kids, and I came back down. But just another avenue.
It's funny you say that because Jason brought up in our conversation on the mentor program, creating a varsity club with all the varsity players have that relationship with the youth programs, and they start getting in with volunteer and reffing. So that's sort of like the bigger umbrella that we're going for with the youth program.
Cool. Love it.
Yeah. That's a great idea. Wow.
Thank you.
Miss Angie.
The only real new news besides what we talked about in executive session are the new hires for special education. So Jennifer Oaks has started and has been training with Cindy the last week and a half. Next week is Cindy's last week. And she keeps coming back, so that's good. And Sabrina, who is she's working with first grade and second grade, in the special education world. And I know there was the question about her certification, she is an elementary certified teacher, and she's very close to having her special education certification. So, that's why she would be a long-term sub. But they both seem to be happy here and, very, very happy with Candor, so. Exciting. Excellent. And that's all.
Thanks. Kim, you're up.
Oh, I am? Oh, because my report was out of the packet. I was like, no, it's Matt. All right. So on the front page, I just did the bulleted list of what the priorities are that each grade level or secondary, I guess, is on their own, what they're focused on. The only change would be pre-K, Sarah and Nicole originally had identified, looking at the language domain from the assessment they use, the Dial 4. But they too are using their time to dig into Super Kids. So again, coming back to that core instruction and the word that, Katie and Pete and Angie are using with the teachers is, teaching with fidelity. Just making sure that they understand the program and are teaching it the way that it's intended. So what other highlights? 7th grade, again, you'll notice the iReady. We are using the lessons, which we can show you in another board meeting. During the Ela Support Lab and Math Support Lab, ELA is using the lessons, math will be, although I do think Pam and Tracy are using them as well already. But we had 4 students that needed to finish the diagnostic. It took longer in this building than it did the elementary, just the way that the days are broken out into the cycle. So we'll be meeting with those teachers to talk about a plan. And then senior high, I don't want to say too much because I don't know how much Brent's going to talk about tomorrow. So I guess what I would leave it is we had the department chairs meeting this afternoon. Wayne and I had met with them. And the focus for the year really is a district-wide initiative on literacy. And what's interesting is we're kind of going back in time 2 years. We're hoping to pick right up where we left off. And I just needed a reminder of what we were doing 2 years ago. On the back, I know that looks like a lot of information. I am not going to read that to you. I thought it was interesting. I thought if you might find it interesting, those are the domains in our Danielson rubric. On early release day for October, we had the teachers just do a self-reflection for after we went through an activity, and just a couple of the highlights. One, if you notice, in domain 1, we have quite a few teachers that feel pretty confident about their content, but also just the knowledge of the students in their classrooms. Domain 2, you have the classroom environment. Clearly, the work that we've done over the years on our culture and climate has paid off, and teachers, at least in their own self-assessment, feel that they do well. It was interesting that 6, for organizing physical space, the narratives that they shared, it was all about social distancing, that they struggled with their physical space, but it was all because of the social distancing and the way they would maybe do groups in the past and are able to now and trying to find creative ways. And then the other highlight, and Nate, you already mentioned it, the communicating with families. That was primarily at junior, senior high. And I know that's a conversation that comes up often. When you see, even in the junior high team meetings, if there's a concern, it's like you've got to coordinate of 8 teachers, who's going to make the call home? Because as a parent, you don't want 8 phone calls. So again, I thought that was interesting. Those conversations were already being had. And then when I saw that, it was like, okay. Let's see, what are my other notes? just the next steps at the bottom. The information for every teacher's been shared with each of the principals and lead evaluators so that we can use that information with them. And another thought, I did add that there. You know, if one teacher thinks something's a strength and we have another teacher who believes it's not a strength and they want to go visit and see, I think this data can be used really well for that. So unless there's any questions, that's it.
So this is not anonymous. You can look and say, this teacher right here felt they were deficient in X.
Yep.
Cool.
So, yeah, they're very trusting of us. You know, there was the line that said name. They had to put their name on it and they filled it out. And it's good information. I think we've all had a chance to look at that. Yep.
What about the 7 for participating in professional community? Is that with other teachers or is that in, what exactly?
It depended. So when I read through them, all of the above. There were a couple of teachers that put the comment that they wanted, like they were done, they had their master's degree, maybe they would take another course. So they put that note there. Professional community, as far as, I think there were 1 or 2 teachers at the senior high level that they're the only one who teaches that subject.
So I feel like they're on an island.
Yep. So, you know, how do we promote that connection through the TST region? That was a comment. I'm trying to think of what the others. Yeah, it wasn't just one specific thing like, okay, we don't have a professional community here. It was more like, okay, how do I reach out and talk to people that are teaching things like I'm teaching them?
Thanks.
Yep.
Holly?
All right, so, like last month, I started with a little story,
Oh my God.
and it really happened.
I like that.
I'm sorry.
Come back.
My check mark was too big.
Nick, you wanna go?
No, keep going, Holly.
Moving
My
along.
check mark was too big, my bad.
Okay, so I started with the story, like I did last month, and this really did happen. And it was quite frightening for the driver, but, I don't know if I could, you want me to say any more about it?
We read it. It was odd. I mean,
So when I called the parent, I described it just like that, so I didn't indicate anything. And she goes, "Oh my gosh, there's weirdos out there. Like, what happened? Who was it?" Well, it was grandma, and she just wanted to say goodbye to the kid. She said, "No, no." Yes. So, anyways, yeah. So I hope I don't have a story like that every month, but I just thought it would be fun to share it. So the navigation system, on Monday the 11th, AT&T came down and got them set up into 12 of our buses. So I did some training on Monday with it, and I've got a lot of work to do with it yet, and I just need time to do it, but there's some cool things. So I can have up on my screen where each of the buses are. So it gives me the address, it gives me how fast they're going, it gives me if there's excessive acceleration, it gives me if they're idling, it gives me all those fine details that I might want. And I can set reports, get notifications once a week. I can get an email immediately saying that somebody's speeding. However, most of the roads are set to 30. So I got a lot of speeding notifications really quick, so we ended that. So I need to, well, I emailed them to say this road isn't 30, and they said we do all of our updates on the 1st of the month. So I have a long ways to wait before they update the roads. So, so there's a lot of kinks to work out yet with it, but it is a really cool system. So, parts, we are struggling just like everybody else getting parts. It's getting a little sketchy because we're scraping. We had there's a DEF fluid sensor that seems to be going on every bus, and the international buses, of which we have 3 that those are what we're trading this year. But the other districts that run the internationals working with the state, I guess, to waive that notification when it comes up on the dash to say that this is an issue because they can't get the parts. they haven't done that with Bluebird yet, so we have a couple buses that are sitting there, and we're low buses because we can't run them without that, so we're hoping tomorrow to get one of those in at least, so. The new buses that were coming in July, the last I got this week was that they might be here in November, so. We're struggling. We need buses, we need drivers, we need parts, yeah. So I've got a few projects that I didn't put in here that I'm working on, but kind of borrowing and stealing from other districts, but I got on the websites just to see what they have out there for parents and students for information about transportation. So I'm almost ready to share a manual that I have for the parents and students. I'm working on one for the drivers. I'm working on like a step-by-step for hiring new drivers, because there's nothing up there. And every time if somebody comes in and asks questions, I'm like, oh, I gotta think about what you have to do. So I want it all in writing. So several projects that I'm working on, but once I have them, if I can share them with you first before they go out, I would like that. I'm just not there yet. So when I am, I'll let you know. That's that.
Thanks, Ally.
You're welcome.
All right, Matt, sorry.
No problem. So I didn't have a lot of information in the report other than the survey results, and these are just preliminary results. We had our first committee meeting with parents and community members last week. Ben and I were there to get some feedback from families and community members about our communication and website, our policies in terms of how we communicate and the website. And the reason I presented this survey results to you, again, I said they are only preliminary because we only have like 22 community members who participated, and that's because it's really, unless a community member just happens on our website, they're not going to know about it. So anybody that's out there watching, please go to our website and fill out the survey. Or I'm hoping that it gets in the Candor Chronicle so that people know that they can, fill out the survey and give us some feedback. In addition, I wanted to get any of your feedback on things that you think might be needed or added to this so that we can continue to get some more good information about how we communicate with families in the community. But we did get a lot of great results from parents within a week. Almost 200 families or parents reply, and we got a lot of information that I didn't know if it was going to be as clear as it is, but I think it is very clear that parents, for the most part, are feeling pretty good about how we communicate. Some families would like more communication, which is great to know that we have some opportunities for growth there. And we also presented, just without any information about what it would look like, the idea of an iPhone or an Android app that would provide push notifications, and that was very popular. So we wanted that information just to kind of have an idea of what we should be looking for in services moving forward, because we have to make that decision pretty soon. So it's that was pretty overwhelming in terms of the need or the desire for that. So we are looking at website or content management services that provide a dedicated app that's a school branded app. So so I think we got good information, and we're going to continue to get some more information. And the committee meeting last week was great. We got great feedback about what parents and community members, a selected group, liked about different websites that are out there. So it gives us sort of a starting point when we begin to build some mock-ups of the website. So we're not just kind of flying blind. So that was really great information. And once we settle on one of the services, we'll let you know. And then we'll continue to move forward with building the website and continue to get more student and parent community members feedback. So we're planning, Ben and I just had a meeting this morning or yesterday about getting students, how we're going to get students. And I think we settled on, in the high school, presenting some information to students in their crews, just to get some feedback from them and their crews, and then asking for any students that might be interested in being on that focus group. So finding students that are interested in that design piece and then getting some feedback from them and giving everybody an opportunity to participate, and then getting that smaller group that are really wanted to add their thoughts. If you have questions about the survey, or if you have suggestions, I'm happy to either answer questions or get your feedback.
You guys did a great job. I mean, thank you for inviting me to that group. You were well prepared, you did your homework. You knew you had it organized to where people knew what they were doing. And I'm glad to see the community members, parents who were there. It was great.
It was very perfect.
Nice job.
Thank you, sir.
Ben did most of it. No, you were pretty good.
That's why we hired him. He makes everything look really pretty and presents it really well. So I appreciate his help.
Have you already reached out to the Candor Chronicle?
I was hoping to see her tonight, so I will reach out to her.
I saw her this morning at the Lindridge thing, and she asked for sort of a synopsis of what happened, and I said that you could get her the minutes. I don't know how long you typically take, but she was kind of like, "What?" But I want to know what really happened. Just the size. So if you could add that, we would love to have the website. We want feedback. Just to tout the community
The
survey
survey is on the
in the
website.
Candor Chronicle. That would be.
At
there
some
you go.
point, it did make it to a Facebook community forum too, I
Oh,
saw,
okay.
so,
Oh, really?
yeah.
Just out there a little bit.
Well, I don't
The
know.
community.
One of them. Pay that close attention.
So then we have, thank you, Matt.
Yep.
Then we have Mike report. And Brent.
Yeah, so I want to start by talking about tomorrow's was my first superintendent conference day, and this whole team has done a fantastic job getting everyone ready for it. Some of the things that we have to do are the mandated trainings, and those will happen in the morning. But as Kim, and if Wayne were here, Wayne would have said, and Katie, and really the whole team, the teachers are really ready to get focused on empowering students through our instruction with all the tools that they mentioned and more. So tomorrow's the day to come together as an entire pre-K-12 team and look at, okay, what is each person's piece? How do we get all those pieces together like a well-designed puzzle that fits together so that a student going through our system, pre-K-12, has all the instruction and empowerment that they need to take advantage of our program. So it's an exciting day. I'm excited for it, and that's tomorrow. I don't know if you have more questions. I'll report on it after the day to let you know how it went. And, I'll get feedback, so it's not just my opinion of how it went, but everybody's, and we'll get that to you. The other thing I want to talk to you a little bit about, actually I don't want to talk to you about, but I feel I have to, is the whole COVID issue that we're still dealing with. And I think really everyone, parents, children, faculty, dealing with the COVID epidemic really well here. I feel that even more when I talk to my colleagues in other districts. They're doing a great job managing it, or what we have to manage. There are a few things that I wish we had in place, particularly the ability to test somebody who's symptomatic, whether it's a student with their parent permission or a faculty member who may have the sniffles. Well, if we could test them in real time and get that information to them quicker, that would be a great service. There are a couple avenues that we're chasing down to try to get that to happen. One I told you over a month ago about a company called Affinity Assured that got a government grant. They got themselves overwhelmed. They took they filled out the grant, they got approved to do it, and they had hundreds and hundreds, because they're nationwide, of school districts signing up. So I kept following up every week with calls and emails to them, and I get very nice responses, but no real progress. I did get an email this week. I did found out that in our region, the first district to actually get it up and running is Ithaca. They were early in and they're bigger. So I do think we're close. And that's a program where they would send us tests. We'd be able to administer the test to someone who's symptomatic. We ship it to them FedEx. Their lab test it, and they tell me that they'll have the results back to us within 48 hours. That would be great. It would cut down the time, and it would be a wonderful service that we could do at no cost. We also, we're looking to be approved as a lab, so we can do rapid tests ourselves right here. We're all in line to get the approval. What's holding us up there is getting tests. They're hard to come by and they're expensive, so how we're gonna do that, I'm not sure. Talking with our local BOCES administrators tell us that the state is promising that they'll be able to provide them to us at some point. When that's gonna come, again, I can't give you a solid date. We're hoping by November is what people are thinking, and then we'll be able to do that as well. Okay. Great. So, are there any questions about anything I mentioned or anything I didn't?
Did you have any how many takers on the first vaccination? I saw the second one got.
Yeah, the second one got canceled. When I checked, and then we had a few more, they were up to 25. And they were prepared to vaccinate 100 people, and they had only had 25. And I think that's kind of what played into canceling the second one. They also hadn't had as many people sign up for the second clinic that we were doing. So hopefully we'll see, people either get vaccinated or one way or the other that we get through this.
Somebody asked me, why did the board cancel the second?
Yeah, you didn't. Yeah, that was, we just invited them to do it here so that our citizens wouldn't have to travel, but that was all the county health department.
Yep.
So, for the record, but I know.
No, I think that's great, and it was nice to have it. So the people who are taking the testing option in school, how do they do?
Okay, so on Tuesday, they have to be tested once a week.
Right.
On Tuesday mornings, Tuesday all day, actually, we have a registered nurse set up in our auditorium.
That's what I thought.
Yep, and they can come down, it's a spit test, they spit in the tube, and then we send it to the county health department, or actually they come and pick it up, we don't even have to send it, they pick it up the next day, get it to the lab, and then we get the results. And we would have more tests too. I can tell you, we did have a staff member who tested positive and quarantined, did everything appropriately. People, even though they were vaccinated that worked close with that person, asked to go down and get tested themselves, because we know that someone, even if you're vaccinated, you could get it and be a carrier. I'm happy to report they chose to do that. We had enough tests to do that, and they were all negative, so it doesn't seem to be spreading here at school. We're not a super spreader by any means. We're doing a good job, but we want more ability to confirm that in more often than once a week. Right now, it's once a week.
Now, the nurse, I know she's going to Florida.
Yes, so.
Who picks up after that, November 30th?
Yeah, so I'll have that answer for you hopefully next board meeting. So we're in the hunt right now for another nurse who wants to work one day a week. We do have some leads through the nurses that work here now, who are friends who may be willing to do that or happy to do that. Okay, and I do want to say, thank the county, because that is all on the county's dime. So they reimburse us for the nurse and they supply the test and pay for the testing. Which is wonderful that they can do that for us.
Thanks. Any board comments?
Sure, you know what I mean. I appreciate, you guys, I think, are on the right track. You're getting it, take a look at the data. Transparency is very important. You've got really good plans. I appreciate all that. I think things are going well. Everything's swell. Really appreciate it.
Great. Anybody else? I was, the Lindridge ceremony this morning was cool. He was so overwhelmed. He was like shaking next to me in the chair. Why is my wife here? Put it together, buddy. You just want a big thing. It was neat. It was short and sweet, but really nice for him to get that recognition. And visitors. If nobody else, visitors, we're back to you guys. All is well in the world. Great. All right, guys, 8:44. We were adjourned with the public portion, but we do need to do another exec.
Was there anybody online?